Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Give a big round of applause for this wonderful event. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Wole Coxum, founder and CEO of MoCaFi.
Thank you very much. This is great. So I'm trying to, so does the mics work? Oh, this works beautifully, so I can walk around. I'm thrilled to have all of you here this evening. My name is Wole Coxum, and I'm the founder and CEO of Mobility Capital Finance, which we affectionately call MoCaFi. And this moment is so special because MoCaFi is a company that comes from community. And there's no better community to be a part of than the LA community. And to the extent that we're in a position to be able to bring a conversation together to the community, for the community, about how do we uplift everyone from financial services perspective with a blueprint for us to be able to move the needle in terms of closing the wealth gap in this country. And to the extent that we all know the numbers in terms of the disparities that exist within the income levels, within the home ownership levels, within the opportunities, we have an obligation to do something about it. And that's sort of what we're here today to do in terms of fulfilling that obligation around what we can do as a community for the community to improve our community. And the role that MoCaFi plays, the role that the city plays, the role that the community groups play, the role that partners like Wells Fargo plays, and TransUnion, and VantageScore, and iHeartRadio is what makes all this sort of work. And so I hope all of you come from this conversation with the sense of challenging us to step up to help all of you achieve your particular goals and objectives. You know, when we came to Los Angeles last year, it really came out of this idea that Mayor Garcetti had in terms of how do you create contactless government, and how can you have a way for individuals to access city services effectively and efficiently, and then have a way to receive monies from the city as well as be able to pay for city services on an electronic platform. And we created the Angelino Connect program, and I'm looking at Dawn and I'm looking at Steve Tay from MasterCard, and we were able to do something that has set the stage for the rest of the country in terms of bringing innovative financial services to communities. We think that in our partnership, we've been able to help Angelino save millions of dollars in terms of the predatory fees and costs that people might pay just to get access to their own money. We've changed the game on that. And we know that there's a different paradigm in terms of how you can create and build wealth, and we want to help bring some of our ideas and tools to help people achieve those goals. We recently launched a product called the Blueprint, which allows you to create your own financial plan, which I hope everyone has a chance to take a look at. Go to theblueprintapp.com and you can see what it is. But most importantly, we're trying to figure out how we can bring tools to people in a very tangible way so they can improve their credit score, so they can buy that first home, start that first business, or keep their business going. So let me just make one quick comment before I turn it over to some of the sponsors. But I just want to first acknowledge that we're in a fabulous place, and that the California African American Museum and Stephen Randall and his team, who helped put this event together, has been spectacular, and so we appreciate that. Wells Fargo, VantageScore, MasterCard as sponsors, with iHeartMedia, especially Joel Kelly and Caroline Dizelle and DJ Vic who provided our music, and Mo Kelly, who you're going to hear from a little bit later, and Big Boy have been fantastic supporters of what we're trying to do. It can't come to LA without thanking the city of LA, in particular Dawn Comer, who is head of inclusion for the city, and her boss, who's not here, Deputy Mayor Jean Holm, who's responsible for finance and strategy. We wouldn't be here without you. So we greatly appreciate the friendship and the partnership. The event coordinator, John Paul Basile, and his team, we appreciate you. And I understand John Paul had a couple of challenges last week, but worked through those, and we were able to help pull this off today. Our stage manager, John Freeland, and the caterer, Jason George Events, is fantastic. The food's been terrific, so we appreciate that. We've got Matt Cave of Acavus, and Peter and everyone else who's doing such a great job. I just want to tell one quick story, and then I'll turn it over to you, Darlene. So a couple weeks ago, the MoCaFi team was in Detroit for a meeting, and it was the first time we had come together for an in-person session since the beginning of COVID. And the team has grown, and we've got a lot of excited folks. And the head of risk lives in San Francisco and had come to LA for a weekend or a couple weeks before the program. So he's in a cab, and he says to the cab driver, well, there's a new mayor coming. How do you feel about that? And he's like, well, I don't know. Mayor Garcetti's done a great job. I really enjoy the innovation that he's brought to Los Angeles. And Tremaine said, what do you mean? He said, well, he brought the Angelino Connect account to Los Angeles. And Tremaine said, well, I work for the company that helped bring that to life. And he said, and the Uber driver said, let me explain it to you how it works. And so Tremaine was experiencing mansplaining from the Uber driver about how great the Angelino Connect account is. And that brought a tear to my eye because I was like, wow, that's a big deal. But more importantly, it just demonstrates the ability to bring innovation to communities that have historically just been overlooked. And we got to change the game on that. Like, if we don't do it, no one's going to do it for us. But the thing that's so wonderful is we've got all these great partners who want to lean in. We can use our talents and our innovations to do things that's setting a new framework for the rest of the country. And if we do that successfully, people are going to look back and say, I was a part of this. It started in LA. So anyway, we're a part of that. You're a part of it. We're here for you. We're excited about the evening. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Darlene, to please kick us off.
Okay, I'm a lot shorter than Wole. So good evening, everyone. My name is Darlene Goins. I'm an Executive Vice President and Head of the Banking Inclusion Initiative at Wells Fargo. And I am honored and privileged to be here tonight. And it's been a fantastic relationship that we've been building with MoCaFi, opening up our ATMs. We have 12,000 ATMs across the country, opening up our ATMs for cash withdrawals with no fees from Wells Fargo, using the Angelino Connect card and other MoCaFi debit cards. So it's a real honor to be here tonight. And at Wells Fargo, we recognize the added burden on families that are operating outside of the formal banking system, and we want to help change that. We want to help bring people into the formal banking system and give them access to low-cost banking products. So to do that, 1 year ago this month, we launched the Banking Inclusion Initiative, which is our 10-year commitment to help more people who are unbanked enter the formal banking system through low-cost mainstream bank accounts. And we recognize that this is a tall order. It is a complex problem, which is why we committed to 10 years of focus on this. And it's going to take a broad range of stakeholders working collaboratively to actually make progress. So conversations like the one that we're going to have tonight are essential. We need to talk as a community about the obstacles to financial inclusion, the various barriers and the ways that we can overcome them. And our shared hope is that And Finance for All will help turn those conversations and mobilize them into action. And it's got to be a collective action, all of the folks that are here. Too many Angelenos and people across the country have traded pandemic worries for new concerns. We've got high inflation, more expensive groceries, higher gas prices. It's real burden on people, especially that are struggling day to day. There are more than 7 million unbanked households in the US, and they are predominantly Black and African American, Hispanic, Latino, and Native American. And so those folks not only are paying higher prices as we've seen inflation rise, but they are still burdened with the higher expenses of alternative financial services like payday lending and check cashing. And for a sizable number of those individuals, more than just the unbanked, it's a struggle to save for an emergency, to build wealth, to improve one's financial well-being, and it's just getting harder. So where do we begin? At Wells Fargo, we've started with listening. We're listening to unbanked individuals through focus groups and really understanding the barriers, the way that they're managing their finances today, their hopes and aspirations to figure out how we can use our size and our scale and our resources and our relationships to form new programs and new partnerships that can help drive towards financial inclusion and an economy that works for everyone. So I am going to close now, and I think I'm going to hand things over to Jeff. But thank you, MoCaFi, for bringing us together for this event. We're proud to be sponsors of tonight. We're looking forward to the conversation, and let's all work together to open pathways to economic advancement for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Wonderful words, and on behalf of VantageScore, we are so thrilled to be here. My name is Jeff Richardson. I'm Senior Vice President of Marketing Communications at VantageScore. I'm here in place of my CEO, who's in San Francisco with the flu, so you're stuck with me. But I go back with Wole a couple of years, and we're proud to be a small part of MoCaFi's amazing success. They give away our scores to their users. And they also are amazing partners in the sense that they can report their users' rent to the credit bureaus, which gets picked up in our credit scores. So with VantageScore, what we've tried to do is to use data and analytics to make financial services more inclusive. What we don't do is adhere to the outdated processes and procedures that led us to where we are today, which is an area where financial services is restrictive, and there's banking deserts in many communities across the country. And so we think that we have a mission beyond commerce, and that credit access is one of the most fundamental needs that we have as Americans today. And one of the things that I think we really should talk about is, where can we find tools to increase financial inclusion and understand where the pockets of opportunity live? And so you can't see them, but I've got some slides that are rotating. And one of the things that we can do is provide data and analytics. And what we can do is look inside communities, understand where are the pockets of consumers who don't necessarily have what we call conventional credit scores, but are actually credit worthy if you take other pieces of data under consideration. Millions and millions of consumers fall into this category of being conventionally unscorable or credit invisible. We don't subscribe to those terms. we can score these people. We can extend credit safely and soundly to them if we just use the latest data and innovation. And so I'm looking forward to joining this panel to talk about tools and opportunities to do better, because while credit scores may seem like low-hanging fruit, it underpins a lot of the access to credit that so many of us take for granted. And so I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to share some of those data insights, and just really proud of the job that Wole and the MoCaFi team have done, and looking forward to the panel.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. So with that, I think we're ready to go with the first panel. Mo Kelly, you are the moderator for this conversation. Come on up, brother. Steve Tay, come on up. Don, please come on up. Who else we got? Big Boy. Where you at, brother? Come on up. Tay, I think you're right there. Don, you're here. Big Boy, you're here. Okay, well, I'm going to pretend to be Mr. Lawson, and we're going to go from there.
All right, let's do this. How's everyone doing this evening? Oh, we can do better than that. So how your mama doing? That's good. We wanted to hear about your family. But we're here for something that's very important and very serious, the wealth gap. And we're going to, on this first panel, talk about household wealth specifically. The wealth gap, from where I sit, has some different components. There's a traditional access component, a lack of technical access component, and I would say that both run parallel to the financial literacy gap, or put another way, the education gap. Here are some of the unfortunate realities in a nutshell. In LA County, Black households make $40,000 less than the median income for white households. Black and Latinx home ownership rates are 20% below that of Asian and white families. Of the 500,000 Angelenos who are unbanked, as we were just covering, as in without a banking account, 17% are Black and 17% are Latinx. And depending on where you live, you may be charged higher fees for access to credit. Those are just some of the disparities when it comes to household wealth and wealth generation, but we're here to talk about solutions. Let's talk about it from a government, private sector, and community standpoint. First, let's introduce or reintroduce Jeff Richardson, who's the Senior VP of Marketing and Communications for VantageScore, which is the provider of the leading national consumer credit score used by over 2,200 banks, financial tech apps, and financial institutions. Please welcome Jeff Richardson. And also pleased to introduce Dawn Comer, who's the Director of Technology Inclusion for the City of Los Angeles. Put your hands together for Dawn.
Yes.
And Big Boy, syndicated radio personality, the voice of Los Angeles, and host of Big Boy's Neighborhood on Real 92.3 here in LA. Give it up for Big Boy. And Steve Tay, Vice President, MasterCard City Key. City Key is a customizable card program helping governments and local agencies disperse funds and provide services to residents and businesses. Let's welcome Steve Tay. And of course, we would not be here without Wole Kosom, CEO of MoCaFi, who is also joining us. Thank you
very much.
This first question is going to be for all of you so we can get everyone into the conversation. I personally believe that everything begins and ends with financial literacy. I believe that that is the biggest portion of the blame pie. In other words, if we don't address that, it doesn't matter what great program you have. If you don't know how to get to it or know how to use it, it doesn't mean anything. That's me, financial literacy, but I'm not the expert. So I want to go down the line and start with you, Dawn. Am I right or am I wrong?
I agree. I think what's important is that we have to recognize that the skills for financial literacy are not necessarily taught in the schools. And so it's something that we have to take as a community and with our families to not just talk about savings, but how do we make money grow? And I've learned that that's something that I know I didn't know as a young child, but there are many communities across the US where that's taught from the beginning. So financial literacy is key. And I know you mentioned tech and inclusion. And so I know we'll get to that, but that for me and the partnership with MoCaFi, that's where my heart is around the technology to make sure that we can make sure we have access to all the tools, whether it's financial literacy, access to data, education, healthcare, it all comes together.
Big boy, biggest part of this plan.
Yes. It's funny, we just had this conversation on air today, on and off air, about also just with my kids. My son is 15 years of age, my daughter's 13 years of age. And the things that they are learning in school, sometimes when you get out of school, it doesn't get you or it doesn't help you to what you really have to do is when you're starting to live. I've been in radio 28 years this month, and I'm still in the process of learning. When I went to school, of course you learn your English, your math, but then, I'm taking other classes that don't help me today. When I was in junior college, I remember the first day of school, they had all these applications as an 18-year-old that when you walked on campus, you could fill out all these credit applications. And I got up there and I filled out every application I could get. And then I started on a spiral of making sure that I went out and got department store credit cards, all these other credit cards. I even got a credit card for a place called Bab Guion. And Bab Guion is a place that sells automotive parts. And I didn't even have a car. But I went down this spiral, and then that's when I started to learn from my tuition into the School of Experience that I didn't know what interest rates were. I didn't know that every time I paid the minimum that they were just tagging more interest rates on, and I was going to be paying, probably $200-300 for a $50 part that I purchased for a car that I didn't have. So even at the age of 52 sitting here, I'm still learning. And I'm still trying to teach my kids as well. And driving here today, I even thought about some of the missed opportunities of, I should have got that piece of land. I should have got that piece of property. And my first house that I purchased for my mom, we grew up throughout Los Angeles. And it's, and I'll go real quick, but it's 7 kids. My mom was a single parent. So going through Los Angeles, we had like a lot of evictions. My mom's credit was shot. Couldn't get a bank account. And so when I finally got into radio, I said, you know what, I'm going to buy you a house so you'll never have to be evicted again. I ended up getting my mom a house. Now, we were never homeowners, period. So I got the house and they told me the down payment. I said, okay, I could do that. And as I'm sitting there signing for this house for my mother, they congratulate me. Then they showed me this thing called a closing cost. I had never heard of a closing cost in my life. And so literally, I had to learn what a closing cost was. I was able to carry it, but I had to borrow against my future paychecks to get that. So the one thing, when I say I'm learning today as well, I have so many questions also. There's so much knowledge that I want to also receive. So just thank you guys for having me on the panel. And I really should be sitting down there, and soaking this in. But please tonight, soak this game up, soak it up, write it down, record it, and use it to our benefits. Thank you.
Well, I think that financial literacy a little bit comes from your own experience. And so many of us don't have the kinds of role models that we can sort of build intergenerational wealth. And we have a crisis point, right? Because there's a statistic that says most children born today in the middle class who are Black are going to fall out of the middle class as adults. So just to think about that, it's such a tenuous thing that you find yourself in one situation, and unless we do something differently, people are going to become even further behind. Another interesting statistic, and I'll answer your question. They did an analysis and they said if you look at the wealth in the Black community at the time that the slaves were freed in 1865, the Black community has the same amount of wealth in 2022. So we've made no progress. I can give you more statistics to depress you. But the point is, it doesn't have to be that way, and financial literacy is the game changer. And to Big Boy's point, no one has the full understanding. We don't come out fully understanding. But I think we should have, from my vantage point, we need to change the narrative. The narrative in our community should be not whether you should have a home, it's when are you going to have a home. Now, all of us may not get there at the same time. It may not be the right thing for us to think about today or tomorrow, but it's a part of a thought process that we should have. And then if you have that thought process, then you say, okay, well, what do I need to do to get there? And that quest of what do I need to do to get there is a part of the financial literacy journey that we should all go upon. Today, it might be, maybe I shouldn't spend some money on that Starbucks, or maybe I should get the cable out of my kid's name and put it in my own name and pay that bill on time and work with MoCaFi and report that to the credit bureau so it shows up in my Vantage score because I do pay my cable bill on time. But there are just things, I think, big picture we need to aspire to, change the narrative, and then really look for the tools and the tricks that will allow us to get there over time. And that will then encourage us to be on the lifelong learning journey around financial literacy.
Steve.
I agree. I think that financial literacy starts at a young age and having those discussions around trade-offs. But to start those discussions, as Dawn mentioned earlier, is around those tools. One thing that we've learned during this pandemic is that the pandemic has shown that there's been an urgent need to get targeted and responsive digital infrastructure in place. When you have those tools out there, that starts the discussion around, hey, how much should I save? How much should I spend? And we're working with cities at MasterCard to co-create those solutions so that residents in cities are able to start those discussions and start educating and learning to save.
So, I think in business, I think potential financial services, like financial literacy, credit education, it's like table stakes, right? Everybody is providing it, but I don't think anybody's doing it too well, probably us included. I think there's two key components missing. Timing. So the people that know about credit scoring the best, want to take a guess who they are? People with low scores, because they have to.
Yeah.
Somebody with an 850 doesn't need to know, right? So we need to get in touch with people way before they make a decision that's going to impact their credit score. It's easy for scores to go down. It's harder to build them up.
Hey, Jeff, can I jump in there? I'm curious, though, what has changed about credit scores in the last 5, 10, 15 years? Because when I was coming along, it only impacted maybe if I was going to get a car or if I was going to maybe get a house. But now it can keep me from getting a job. It can keep me from getting a date. I mean,
He's not wrong.
How has it changed?
It's changed dramatically and is changing, every day as well. To your point, credit scores were maybe used for some credit cards in the past. It got kickstarted in a major way when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac decided to use them in the 90s. And now every lending decision in some way probably uses a credit score. But it goes beyond that. Landlords use them. Tenant screening companies use them. Insurance companies unfairly use them, in my opinion. So the importance of having positive credit behavior, positive credit history is more important now than it was 5 years ago. The scoring models also use a tremendous amount of data that sometimes is in the credit files and sometimes it's not. So the futurescape is actually a world where the consumers empower our companies to use their data. We don't pull the data without you knowing it. You give us permission. Maybe it's your credit file data, maybe it's your bank account data, then we score it. And I think that putting the power back into the consumers and letting them own their own data is and should be the future.
Steve, I want to come to you now. Big Boy was saying something which spoke to me personally. I remember when I stepped on campus in school and they had all these credit card applications which were everywhere, but it was relying upon me to walk up and then sign my name. Now we have the influx of technology. It's much easier for credit card companies to reach people. What type of advice would you give to someone? And I know it may be counterintuitive to your interests as far as working for MasterCard, but what type of advice would you give for a smart young person to approach the idea of developing a credit profile through the use of credit cards?
First of all, MasterCard is not a credit card company. Just want to make sure. The issuers, like Wells Fargo, they are the credit card companies, they're the issuers, but MasterCard provides the technology, the rails for those transactions to occur. Having said that, I think that there are a lot of ways. I mean, I have 2 college kids myself, and they're asking me, what cards should I apply, and how do you build a score? I think it's a matter of, they seem to look for rewards, but I think it's more so than that. It's about applying and being consistent with payments and trying to make sure that you have the right decisions that you could afford to make purchases and you could actually pay those off. I think those are the basic things.
Dawn, I think adjacent to everything we talk about is technology. And I haven't been in a classroom in many years, but I suspect that I could walk into a classroom today and the technological capabilities are not going to be the same. Some schools are going to have better or worse laptops. Some schools are going to have better or worse Wi-Fi. How does technology figure into this equation of financial literacy and also how we can best prepare our young people to learn about these things?
Right. So it's about access. I often give the analogy of when it comes to internet service, there's someone who's complaining about their family, all 5 members not being able to have the right bandwidth so that everyone can be online. And there's another family saying, I don't have access at all for my children to do their schoolwork. So we need to, we're working to make sure that we're looking at this from an equitable standpoint, that everyone needs that touch point in a safe manner, and understanding that people aren't connected. That's where working with community-based organizations provides that trust factor, because I understand that if someone's new to getting online, there's a lot of risk out there. So we need to make sure that folks understand how to get online and how to do so in a safe manner. But it provides access to information. There's always good and bad. But we have to make sure that we're doing this in the right way, but we have to provide the access to the information. And if it's not at home, then possibly it's the library. I think the library is a forgotten place sometimes, but our libraries do have internet access. They have programs that also are helping people get online in a safe way. So to me, I see it as a utility. Internet is a utility now, but we do have to make sure that folks have access to it in an affordable way, one, and in a safe way.
Access, that is the key word. Big Boy, you said something else which spoke to me. You're a person, you said you were trying to make a joke that you ought to be in the audience, and I think you should be up here because you're a conduit. You speak to people every single day. You have an insight as far as what people are talking about. And we know in this business of hip hop that you and I have worked in, we hear a lot about making money, but less about keeping it or saving it. Has that conversation begun to change, or are we still, and I'm generalizing, just talking about making money?
I think that to tell you the truth, I think that we're still talking about making the money. And I feel that we're also talking about wearing the money and wasting the money. I cannot tell you how many platinum artists that golden platinum artists that by name that I've loaned money to. I can't tell you how many golden platinum artists that I've loaned money to. I've sat in their homes and they don't own their homes. They're worried about more about what's in their pocket as opposed to building a foundation for not just them and their families, but something that they can continue to pass on, because we get into this position where we think that what we have now is going to last forever. And I've seen that. I've seen some of the so-called best. I've seen them at their worst. I've been in radio 28 years, so I've seen the person that was the hottest at one point become the person that can't get back into the door. So I think that as a hip-hop community, I feel that there's still a lot to learn. I remember, and without saying any names or putting anyone on blast, there's someone that I know that I had to get them with someone. They didn't have a bank account. They didn't, the cars were paid for, but they didn't understand the depreciation. And not that I knew everything, but I was a couple steps ahead of this person. So yeah, I totally continue to see it every day in our hip hop community, constantly, and it's great to have these conversations and to have this dialogue, because sometimes we don't know where the information well is at, right. And we're talking about a lot of the future and my kids and starting off early. And I know we'll get into, well, what do we do for repair? What do we do for the person that credit isn't A1, but we're in our 30s, 40s, and 50s and things of that nature, And I mean, I would love to hear that. I don't want to put anybody on blast, but my guy Jose over there that's recording right now, he just dropped 100 points in his credit. So we'll get to you, Jose. We'll get to you. Make sure you record all this, bro. Yeah, this is a learning process,
Well, I think you would understand this big picture. It's a chicken versus egg proposition. Are we talking about building up person by person, brick by brick? Are we talking about communities, or what needs to come first before we can have that discussion of changing communities writ large?
That's a good question.
That's for me?
Us for
you can answer if you want to.
No, I'm not qualified to answer that.
You big boy.
I'll answer that. He'd be like, nah, that's not it.
Tell me how I do. But I think it's both. I don't think it's either or, it's and, because you build a house brick by brick, but once you've built the house and you build a couple of them, you've got a community. And just going in my mind to the fact that you have in the Black community the same level of home ownership today that we had when President Johnson signed the Fair Housing Act in 1968 means we've got to do something differently, right? And we need institutions to lean in different ways. Only 21% of African Americans have a credit score greater than 700. So you just think about that, 21% according to the Urban Institute. And the white counterparts is like triple that number. And I know that Black people are not less creditworthy than their white counterparts, but there are structural things that have been put in place that prevent us from having credit scores that reflect who we are. For example, rent payments. People, we've done experiments. We have our product. Jeff talked about it. If you take your rent and put that to your credit score, you're going to see your credit score go up 25, 50 points. And in some instances, and you can do it with your Angelino Connect account, we make that service available. So if you want that, please get the Angelino Connect account. But in some instances, if you have a thin to no credit file, you just don't have enough activity, if you add your rent, it can turn you into a 700 credit score or better. So what Jeff talks about, your credit score and the impact that can have on you getting a job. If you showed up at Darlene's doorstep and said, I'd like to work at Wells Fargo, they're gonna say, great. We'll take your information and we're gonna check your credit score. And if your credit score isn't a certain number, they're not gonna hire you. Because they're gonna say, if you can't handle your own money, how are you gonna work at a bank? So it's all interconnected. So to answer your question in terms of the village, a community versus an individual, we need each individual to figure out ways to strengthen their, credit score is just one example. But if we do that enough, that's going to strengthen a community. And by strengthening a community, then we're going to change the city of Los Angeles.
We're very short on time, so I'm getting the rap sign from the back. But this is what I'll leave you with this one question. 10-second answer, not 20, 30, 40 seconds, but 10-second answer. I want people to be able to leave today with something that they can do or should do today to either address their own personal financial situation or their household.
I'll stick to the credit score area. You can absolutely find digital tools like MoCaFi where you can have your rent utility payments reported to the bureaus, picked up in VantageScore, and see your score go up.
Ours is simple. We work with communities and cities to better engage, and I think that work with your cities to look at those financial tools.
I think you should find a friend who you trust and have an honest conversation about where you are financially. What are your concerns? What are you scared about? And just start to have a dialogue, because if you have that dialogue, that might be the beginning of trying to figure out a way forward and find some ideas to help you move forward.
I would say continue your dialogue, speak with the professionals, get as much knowledge as you can, but also you got to think you could have been anywhere tonight and you showed up. So I would say you showed up and now ease on down the road. Hello.
I would say let's continue to change the narrative. Let's talk about saving and growing our money. Let's also do some research to understand what's meant by generational wealth and how is that created. My mom actually told me it was a term she hadn't heard before, but I was saying it assuming she knew what it meant. So let's make sure we understand these terms and what they mean and how they impact us financially.
And if you know the song, Don't You Carry Nothing, that might be a load. We're going to ease on down the road. Please put your hands together for Jeff Richardson. And for Steve Tate. For Don Comer. Big boy! Yeah. And Wole Kosum, who's our host, president, and CEO of MoCaFi. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage, O'Shea Luja, AKA Mr. Food for Thought, is a cultural architect, author, biofield therapist, life purpose coach, and an award-winning poet. O'Shea is the founder of Still Waters Network, the producer of the Still Waters Experience, and co-founder of the legacy-rooted Still Waters Writers Workshop, literacy-rooted Still Waters Writers Workshop. coined the Prince of Poetry by the late, great Leimert Park poet D. Black. Mr. Food for Thought spoken word delivery is like an iron fist inside of a silk glove. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. O'Shea Luja.
Yes. Yes. Oh, it feels good. Are y'all ready to journey with me? Are y'all ready to journey with me? Red, the color red. What if I told you that I popped a pistol before I read my first book? Would you believe me? And then told you that by the 6th grade, I shot dice and watched crack cooked and ran numbers all at the same time. Would you judge me? And then told you that my mother found my grandmother shot dead in the head before I was alive in Waco County Police Department labeled it a suicide. And in turn, that's just vibration, y'all. I'm up here vibrating, so I'm gonna let the sound man calm my vibration. Because we're electric people. Everybody say electric. Electric. Ooh, do y'all feel that frequency? It sounds like a sound bowl. Sometimes you just gotta allow what to happen to just go through you. Everybody say allow it to go through you. Allow it to go through you. And Waco County Police Department labeled it a suicide. And in turn, my mother had 9 nervous breakdowns before I turned 9. And I just was recently found out that my grandmother's death was a suicide. Could you relate to that? And help me pick up the pieces of this puzzle and put together a masterpiece that'll turn tragedy into triumph. You up for the task? You are? Well, let's start by taking off your mask. And exposing your most inner secrets and scars. We don't have to jump in and out of cars in order to master the pain of uncles going in and out of little girl's private area. She too was only 9. And by 19 and a half, finance for me, I knew that 14 and a half cost $3,500 and would bring back 26 and a half, slightly stepped on. That's ghetto finance. So a lot of young people, they keep on flipping it like floor exercises. And that beach cruiser, go to a low, and that to a 5 series. Then that turn up 2 extra sizes. Finance for all. And Watts. I didn't really see the resources. And when my mother had her nervous breakdown, she came to Grape Street Elementary to whoop my butt. I ran home and found all of our furniture outside on the front yard with a note that says, "I'm leaving Earth." I was in the 3rd grade. I didn't know what that meant, but I went to set off to find out why nervous systems break down. And it was because lack thereof resources. So much energy that we did not have. Please bring me a microphone and cut this one off. Please bring me a mic, please. It was a lack thereof resources. And in the energy of a lack thereof resources, my mother was the smartest, most beautiful person that I knew. But I found out that nervous systems can break down. So at Grape Street Elementary, we got secondhand books. And we never had books to vibrate high. It was always hand-me-down. So it was shallow education that fed our children sour apples and propaganda through invisible crazy straws. What was taught about financial education was useless, famished, meaningless information that kept us in formation at all times. Quality sacrificed for quantity, causing an academic inflation, the devaluation of knowledge, turning intellectual ambition into lethargy, bright minds into dim domes, and hopes to be multicultural and eclectic. Class curricula at Grape Street Elementary about financial education was superficial and didn't express from a global viewpoint. compartmentalized pieces of artificial meals. So students at Markham Junior High School in Watts left unfulfilled, famished, and looking for cheap thrills through herb, meth, fentanyl, and X pills to replace the emptiness of this lackluster educational structure. And financial literacy books was filled with purposely misleading inaccuracies, distortion, for the sake of corporate gain and political correctness. Ineffectiveness plagued us at Jordan High School. But I thought the purpose of education was to make one an independent, competent thinker. Truth be told, many didn't care. School, for most of us, was unpaid daycare. Can I be real up in here? Can I? In college, financial education, college is no different. Remember, education is big business. Current student loan debt trumps $1 trillion in America. Hysteria, an understatement. So me, MoCaFi, Sticks, all these partners are going to be pounding the pavement to liberate young people from psychological and economical enslavement, because shallow financial education feed our children sour apple and propaganda through invisible crazy straws. What's crazy is that it tastes good. Believe us on pause with infinite locked jaws, unable to articulate that we're hurting. In school, the financial system is not working. What's taught is useless, meaningless information that's keeping these young people in formation at all times, at all times. At all time. So while we are being kept in formation, I started to zoom into the soul. And in Watts, we were taught that money was king, but that's not true. It's the energy that money produces, right? So I went out on a quest to find out about financial literacy. I wanted to change and reimagine my narrative in Los Angeles, right? So in that energy, I learned finances from hustlers. My grandfather had 6 bookie joints, two soul food restaurants. My mother was the most beautiful woman that I ever seen, that could turn a mayonnaise sandwich into a chicken loaf that would feed 10 people. That was my mother. So I was very resourceful. And I'm saying that because if we want to deal with financial education and finance for all, it's going to be important for us to reimagine how we're vibrating. Reimagine how the information is coming into us. Because I did not know that I was downloading trauma, downloading scar tissue, downloading hurt and pain onto my subconscious, my spiritual subconscious. So by the time I graduated from Jordan High School, oh my God, I couldn't do nothing but play the program. The brain has 2 functions. Say 2 functions. To record and to play back. And if you're not recording beautiful information like finance for all, how to leverage assets, how to create income from creativity, you will be playing back trauma, pain, and that's what's happening in the communities. So if we're going to deal with if we're going to deal with financial education, we have to first deal with how to reset our biofield, how to reset the soul, because the soul knows. And if we're not resetting our soul, it's a waste of time. If you give everybody over 18 $2 million in 1 year, the classes is going to separate themselves. You're going to have rich, poor, and middle class in 1 year. So what does that mean? That means it's more than giving resources. We have to reimagine how to receive resources, which is affluence. Everybody say affluence. The positive, abundant, prolific energy. That's a circulation, whether you're in it or not. So in Watts, we came from a small tribe of purple people who danced barefoot to a bucktooth organ, and a cello bass played by a one-eyed piccolo player with 8 fingers and 3 toes, tambourines and sound bowls. Say sound bowls. Sound bowls. Echo sentiments of financial literacy to lost souls. In my neighborhood, they were clothed in hemp leaves, in money-covered Crown Royal bags that would lay you down to sleep. In Africa, from an east side Los Angeles back street, shuffling a deck of mystical financial cards with all jokers and no queens. But I said, where the queen at? And my mother stood up and said, swing low, sweet chariot, while churning roasted duck stuffed with dressing and lima beans. These purple, blue, black women in Los Angeles, y'all, the woman is everything. They taught eye lingo through rubbing alcohol sniffs and can read your fortune from great granddad's back whip. My mama in Los Angeles said, I got same gift. Can whip air into 4-course meals, move hills and cliffs with a stare. I said, Mama, please tell me more about finance. She said, if you live long enough, more would tell you. She said, live your life, boy. Don't let it live you. Young sap from nectar's purple. Allow your bloom to feel the illusion of your fear. And purple is way back to your stretch, receiving vitamin D from the sun in the language of finance. And my mama say, soon you would know why. In Los Angeles, we come from a small tribe of purple people who dance barefoot to a bucktooth organ played by a one-eyed piccolo player with 8 fingers and 3 toes, tambourines and sound bowls, echoes, sentiments of midwives to lost souls. My mama say, stay on the one, my son, and never forget to cha-cha with your soul. I said, Mama, please tell me more. She said, you come from behind the earth. You're going to change the narrative of your family. She said, you come from in front of the sun. She said, you be wormhole hopping with ancestral beings. My mother said, finance affluence is you, because you wear your turban like Moors, Buddha, Yahshua. You are a beautiful black king that's going to ghost ride the magic carpet down the Nile. My mama said, financial literacy, your infectious smile, going to symbolize it. That everybody see God in you, trusting that you all see it in yourself. The moon reflects my perfect imperfections. Cigarettes and whiskey was used to smudge and libate my childhood aura. In Los Angeles, I was a young pop-locking disciple of Watts, sidestepping booby traps, saving cats caught in the tree of life. I used to paint, write, create the in this moment. My mama said, you're going to reverse your curse through financial literacy. You're going to reverse the curse through financial education. You're going to reverse the curse. You're going to hook slide your tribe into a new direction. Pay attention, young people. We've been here before. And if you blink, you'll miss it. My mama say, I love, gave, hugged, fought, shot, been shot at, transitioned, transformed, God whispering to a shout. And in my quiet, I'm reminded that only love will last forever. I said, Mama, please tell me more about money. She said, if you live long enough, more gonna tell you. She said, live your life, boy. Don't let it live you. And when she transitioned in 2016, I was able to realize that I own my time. I own my time because I could sit down for a year and don't do nothing if I would like to. Why do I say that? Because for the last 13 years, I've been teaching little boys and girls in Watts and in Los Angeles how to own their time. We need an immersion of positive energy, not for a check, but just so we can change our vibration and just create. How many of us know that in any society, creativity led every mass movement? Creativity, you would first notice it in the art. Create your way in, as Father Amdi would say, or create your way out. But creativity will always tell a society what to do. So, if we're talking about financial literacy, financial for all, let's deal with creativity, y'all. Because when you're creating, you're conscious. Everybody say conscious. Creativity don't have nothing to do with thought, y'all. Know the parameters and create your circumstances. And this is what MoCaFi is introducing. This is what all the partners are introducing. How to create your circumstances. We can't go with an old narrative that we're not good enough. We don't have access. We don't have enough. We got more than enough, y'all. It's happening right now. So in that energy, when I was a young mustache, my mustache done got gray on me. I look up and in one month, I'm gray now, right? So when I was a young mustache, I knew that one day I would be able to speak my truth and share my experience through financial literacy. And what if I told you to change your money troubles, you could read the book on money management, manage your establishment, get you some assets, and think like the wealthy. Stop breaking over money, learn to live healthy, get into 20% of wealth distribution. 20 is simple. The 80 is confusion. 80 only separate 20% of the pie. The 20 split up 89. Look at the divide. Stop it. They didn't hear me. 80 only share 11% of the pie, but the 20 split up 89. Look at the divide. Let's change the game with money smart strategies. Put it all together. If you're working, double down on your salary. Get your money right through financial education and give thanks. Learn how to manage your money through MoCaFi and be your own bank. Start you a think tank. Get you out of debt. Financial freedom, a wealthy mindset. Learn the secrets of money management to build wealth. Get you some assets and put the debt on the shelf. Money smart education. Say it. Money smart education. Say it. And in that energy, I want to invite you all to know that affirmations is the soul speaking out loud. So y'all are asked to join me in this financial finance for all affirmation. Repeat after me. We will have finance for all. We surrender to the financial energy that's within all of us. We live to express that energy. It is one of our ways. Come on, y'all, give me some energy. It is one of our ways of fulfilling our life. We allow ourselves to create and know that every aspect of what we express is part of a divine plan. We walk in financial freedom. We are no longer afraid. We surrender to our financial process, which brings forth our high good and enriches every aspect of our lives. It is done unto us as we know, and we know that it is done. Last but not least, bliss is to see MoCaFi and these partners, this energy come together right before our very eyes, you see. This is the master plan, a MasterCard master plan. As beautiful blessings of financial freedom will rain from the sky. You see, an event like this will have young people always rise and prevail. Many years later, we will have a beautiful story to tell of how we have reimagined our narrative through ups, downs, smiles, frowns. An event like this comes around once in a lifetime. Today, with MoCaFi, the sun shines bright on this utopia, cornucopia of ecstasy, mixing all these partners, Think Watts, MasterCard, MoCaFi, and everyone else, big boy, into this beautiful legacy gives birth to anointed freedom. Through financial blessings, we will live happily ever after. We've captured love, finance, freedom in the palm of our hand in a MasterCard, and it will last forever because financial freedom in Los Angeles, finance for all in Los Angeles, and finance for all in Los Angeles is the Most High master plan. Thank you, brother. We give thanks. We give thanks. I want y'all to give it up for Ali on bass. I want y'all to give it up for PQ, the world-renowned artist PQ. And I am Mr. Food for Thought, O'Shea Luja, your cultural architect. Thank you for listening. Thank you, MoCaFi. To be continued. Peace.
Yeah. All right. Let's give it up one more time for Food for Thought. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. So now we're going to hit you with a little film, short film here on our block trailer with Dr. Cynthia Big Mama Mendenhall and her organization, Watts Chosen Angels.
Dr. Cynthia Big Mama Mendenhall, founder and executive director of Chosen Angels. And this is my story. I am a lifetime resident of Imperial Courts Housing Development in Watts, California, and a female general of the P.J. Watts Crips. I am a victim of child sexual abuse, domestic violence, police brutality, racial injustice, and economic equality. I am a mother of 4 children, 2 living, 2 deceased, due to gun violence in 2006. I am an activist, intervention specialist, lifetime coach, and I wear many hats. And I am a senior foster parent with a Doctor of Humanities degree and decades of national attention. Google my name. But for over 30 years, I have sacrificed everything in my life in order to better the life of those around me. And while I've helped many families get out of the housing project, me and my family and I are still there. My whole life, I have known struggle, experienced a lot of loss, felt a lot of pain, fought for survival. But through it all, I have changed lives around me. I will stop at nothing to better my community, because I am my community. Watch on my block, presented by MoCaFi, to follow along my journey in Watts, California.
Sticks coming on up. We have Chancey. Chancey, come on up. Give it up, give it up. Austin, come on up. And then we have, oh, bro, what's up? How you doing? It's nice to see you. All right, the community. Yeah, we got it all set for you. We got it all set for you. And then we have Kara and Carmen. Fantastic. Prosperity Markets. And then we've got Akil. I think that's everybody. Fantastic. Give them a hand. So let me just give you a quick, so I guess one thing I'm supposed to do before we start this is talk about the Slido We've got some interactive things going on here. So if you go to slido.com, and we have a poll, we want to make sure this is interactive. So if you go to slido.com and you put in that code 051122, which I think is the date, is going to come up with a couple of questions for you. And please answer those questions, and we'll get sort of real-time feedback from the audience, which is very important. Okay. These are the questions too, just in terms of, what are we talking about in terms of what's the single most effective solution for closing the wealth gap in Los Angeles? And really the purpose here is for us to then start to walk away with a couple of ideas from your perspective in terms of what we should focus on, because we're only as good as what you inform us and share with us. And the good thing about the folks on this panel, which is a fabulously beautiful, handsome-looking group of people. I feel very...
Oh, man, you too kind.
Well, the truth is easy. But really, in terms of community and what we can do as a group, and folks on this panel here represent the community, but, you're here and we represent you. So we want to hear from you as we think about this next panel. Okay, so we're doing that. So now I get to be the moderator for the second panel, which is how to move towards inclusive economic development and focus on local entrepreneurship and supporting small businesses. And entrepreneurship is one of the critical ways that you close the racial wealth gap, from my perspective. There are two big drivers. One driver is home ownership. And again, I'm just picking up on what Dawn said earlier, we need to change the narrative. And it's, from my vantage point, it's not whether you're going to own a home, it's when you're going to own the home. The other piece that drives the wealth gap, closing the wealth gap, is entrepreneurship. And the statistics are compelling in terms of how entrepreneurship creates an opportunity for us to be owners. I guess that's the key. It's all about ownership. You got to own something, whether it's a house, a business, stocks, bonds, something. You got to have an ownership mentality. So the folks around the table here are going to talk to you about that. And so we have Styx, who is the founder of the Think Watts Foundation, who's been a fabulous partner for MoCaFi, for MasterCard. When we had our launch here in September, he said, I'm the connect of Angelino Connect, which is a fabulous line, and that's been so very true. Chancey is the founder and executive director of Thai CDC. And one of the things that has become very apparent to me in Los Angeles is it's all about coalition building, right? And Chancey represents that coalition, an important part of the coalition as we fight this good fight. We have Austin Clements from Slauson. And I had the good fortune of meeting Austin probably about a year and a half ago. And when you meet people who set a new bar for you in terms of how to think about creating wealth and how to amass assets and how to invest in community, you set that for me, and we've been trying to keep up with you ever since, and privileged to have you here. And then Prosperity Market. And what I've heard about Prosperity Market, I haven't had a chance to visit yet, but I want to do that. But that's the place to go if you want to get good stuff.
That's accurate.
In a nutshell, And so we have Kara Still and Carmen Deanne, who are a part of this conversation today, and we're thrilled to get your perspectives in this conversation. And last but not least, by any stretch, is Akil West. And Akil I got to know in September of last year when we launched the Angelino Connect program in front of his shop, and we had a chance to do a tour of the building. If you haven't been to Soul Folks, it really is representative of community economics, right? In my mind, it's how do you create spaces for entrepreneurs to thrive? And it's so important to be in a place where you can sell your wares, tell your story, begin to build a following, and Akil is creating that through Soul Folks. So we're privileged to have everybody. So what I'd like to do as we sort of get into this conversation is to ask sort of the basic question, right? What is the model for us as we try to move forward and drive entrepreneurship? Because Black people and brown people have been entrepreneurs for a long time. If you think about the history of the Green Book, where there was a time where Black folks couldn't spend the night in certain establishments, so an entrepreneur created the Green Book, which is a list in all the cities across the country where homes where Black people were welcome. That lasted for 50 years. Well, you know what? That's nothing more than Airbnb, right? So we figured that out a long time ago. So entrepreneurship's in our DNA. Anyway, so not about me. Sticks, tell me what we're gonna do about this.
First things first, simple and easy. There are people in positions and in place that are very racially biased towards seeing any progression when it comes to Black progression, brown progression, Pacific Islander, Asian progression. We have to get rid of all the racist people first and foremost. So now that we got that out the way, then we have to truly educate our people. Education is so powerful. We have to redefine what education is first when we talk about the school system. The school system teaches you the traditional model for years and years and years. Where have that gotten us? We already see who it helps and who it doesn't help. So we have to educate things like, and I'll focus mainly on entrepreneurship because there's a few different factors. There's environmental factors, financial factors, there's access to many different resources factors, but I'll stick to entrepreneurship. We have to teach things like, what is a balance sheet? What's a P&L statement? These are accounting terms that we have to understand, that we have to know if you want to get access to capital, if you want to effectively, the devil of entrepreneurship is taxes. To understand taxes, to understand revenue, income, to understand expenses, you have to understand all of these terms and you have to educate yourself on what these things are in order to even effectively run a small, big business, period. So we have to first start with the people that are in place, address who these people are who create barriers, who create limitations to how far we can grow and go as a business when we set that up. Educate ourselves on what is a business, what is a LLC, what is a S Corp, what is a C Corp, what are all of these different things we need? How do we need to set up if I want to start a real estate company, if I want to just sell fruits and vegetables, if I want to sell cable box, shoot, whatever, funnel cakes, it don't even matter. How do I do that and how do I properly set myself up? And that starts with education. Then we have to define what we do with our money when we receive it.
Right, for sure, for sure, for sure. So Chancey, you've got a financial institution.
So Thai Community Development Center, for the past 30 years, we've been engaged at the micro level, individual asset building, and at the macro level, community asset building. And what we mean by that at the individual level is really trying to help those who have no access to capital and those who really does not understand anything related to financials, and help them really gain a footing in terms of trying to, like what you had said earlier, understand how to not just access capital, but then start a business, site selection. We have a 27-hour entrepreneurship training program that covers all of that. It covers site search, site selection, starting a business, wage and hour laws, profit and loss statements, taxes, also marketing, and and just developing a business plan. So we work with a very marginalized community members who are disadvantaged and dispossessed, downtrodden, and destitute. And these are predominantly immigrants with limited English proficiency. And so you can imagine the barriers that exist for them, not just linguistically, but culturally. And they don't know about the importance of credit score and how to become credit worthy. So we have to start right at the beginning to reach these members of the marginalized community and who are invisible, and make these financial literacy classes and do financial coaching in language, and then also help them access opportunities for economic mobility so that they become economically self-sufficient and financially stable. And our model is what we call the empowerment economics. And we have the basically core elements of that, and they are 6. It's got to be community driven, culturally connected, narrative changing, holistic, multi-generational, wealth and power building. And if some of you know where Thai Town is in East Hollywood, that was Thai CC who founded Thai Town back like 21 years ago, 22 years ago, as a basically a vehicle to grow a local economy based on cultural tourism and community ownership and community building.
And how many people do you serve a year?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we have
the ones you're working with, and the ones you're creating. And the size of the amount of the investment is only limited by the size of the idea. And so often we've been limited in terms of, we've got big ideas, but people who don't necessarily come from our communities, they're not able to see what we see. And so the creation of Slauson is a big deal, right? Because we now have capital that can go along with the size of the idea, and that can have several commas and can create jobs and wealth and the whole kind of thing. So kudos to you for that. Akil, to you, and again, what I'm so impressed with is you're creating spaces. And so just talk a little bit about how that plays into the vision of creating a strong entrepreneurial ecosystem.
First of all, I'd like to thank the sister. I want to say thank you. I saw your video. She called me her other son. She's my other mother. I met her several times. That video really touched me, and we appreciate the work that you're doing. I also want to thank everybody from Leimert Park for coming out here to support me. I appreciate that. I think that you're welcome, sis. I think that what we're doing in Leimert Park could be like if we do, if other areas do what we do in Leimert Park, shedding the light on designers and artists in our community. I'm sorry. Closest to the mic. Yeah. I think if we do, if other areas do what we do in Leimert Park, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna enrich that community. You're gonna bring forth their ingenuity. You're gonna kind of shine the light on what they're doing in regards to their entrepreneurship. I think what we should do is we should share our resources. One of the things that we don't do is when we make these partnerships like Slauson & Co. and Wells Fargo and MoCaFi, we never a lot of the companies never give up those resources. They like to keep it close to their chest. What we do at Soul Folks is we do what is called group economics, and we come together and we purchase in large numbers. Like, let's say if it's T-shirts or things like that we have to purchase. Let's say you're a designer, he's a designer, and we all need white T-shirts or something like that. We buy in bulk, and that drops our prices. One of the things that's happening right now is that we're currently coming together to purchase the building that we're in. We received some funding from several organizations, and the purpose is to create a space where the vendors from our organization, from our community, can now move into becoming owners of their business. And I think if more communities did that and utilize that model, I believe that we can kind of change the narrative,
For sure. Shakira and Carmen, as they say, it's in the name. Prosperity market. So you named it and you've created it. Talk a little bit about how you think about this idea of creating a very viable ecosystem, because you've done it. And I think there's some really interesting lessons that we can learn from your success.
Thank you. So I will not act like Prosperity Market has all the answers. We're still very new in what we're doing, but there are a couple things that we recognized are really important for the community we're building, the ecosystem we're building, and every community that we go into. One is absolutely meeting people where they are, because you don't know what a person needs unless you first find out where they are. You build from that. 2, for us, is communication. It's so important for us to be as clear and transparent with our communication as possible, because it doesn't just go one way. And then 3 is partnership, collaboration, collectivity, all of those things working together. If I extend my arms, I can only reach so far. But if every single one of us extends our arms, we have a much greater reach. And so the
work that we're doing and the community that we're building is really based in those 3 areas.
And I would like to add that it really is an ecosystem that we're building. Everybody does different things, but that's how we build a community. So we may have the food. We need somebody who's going to deliver the food, a truck driver. We need somebody who's growing the food. We need all of these things, and that's how we build a strong community.
So, I think I have my history right. That Fannie Lou Hamer, and one of the last things she did was she had a food cooperative. And that was her vision in terms of how to move forward. And you're sort of picking up that mantle, right? And you sort of think about the history of Black farmers and the entire supply chain, and you're creating wealth along the way. So just take a moment and share with us how you came up with this idea. And it's really deeply rooted in African American history, and you bring it into a 2022 concept. How did you come up with that?
It started in really sitting down and understanding the numbers that, they say a dollar stays in our community for 6 hours. So over 2020, we saw this outpouring of support to Black businesses. But if it's only staying in the community for 6 hours, what are we really doing? So how do we keep the money in our community? And that to us looked like creating essential businesses. And what's more essential than food?
Not much.
I'm hungry right now.
So let me ask you this, Austin. What, as a community, should we stop doing? We also talk about things that we do, but I'm often thinking about the fact that if you keep adding, it's just sort of, there's a finite amount of things that you can have capacity. So we need to create some capacity. What should we stop doing as we try to build a stronger entrepreneurial ecosystem?
Sure, I'll tell you about my world. So my world, because we're investing in people so early and companies so early, people have a tendency to think that the idea is where the value is held. They think that I'm not going to share my idea with anybody. I'm not going to tell anybody anything. I don't want anybody to steal my idea. It's brilliant. And the thing is, you can have a brilliant idea. As any entrepreneur up here will tell you, the idea wasn't what did it. It's the execution of that idea that creates the value, that creates the wealth, that creates the opportunities, that creates the jobs, that creates all those other things. And what happens is in our community, when we don't share the idea, we don't find people who want to do it with us. We don't find the people that are aligned. What happens if you have a business idea that you've been thinking about, if you share it with 10 people, 9 of them will be like, I don't think that's gonna work. And then the one person that does say that's a brilliant idea, I can guarantee you they're not gonna say, I'm gonna steal that and start from nothing. They're gonna say, I wanna work with you. I wanna help you out. And so one thing I would love to see in our community is more collaboration, and it has to do with telling your idea to everybody, because the execution is the hard part, and that is where the value is created.
Right. Chancey,
please. I think, what we need to really stop our community from doing is kind of just perpetuating this copycat syndrome that we have in terms of the types of businesses we get into. And you find that in a lot of Asian Pacific Islander communities, because you have what's called ethnic enclave economies. And while it's great to really promote all of these enclaves, and that's what we do in terms of making it to a cultural destination and using that as a vehicle for economic development and trying to really make those communities cultural destinations. But at the same time, and I know many of you probably like Thai food. It's become this popular cuisine of choice. So what you get is an oversaturation of Thai restaurants within an enclave economy. And what that creates is hyper-competitive conditions and low profit margins and high turnover. And so our business counselor is having to figure out how to make each restaurant have its own niche and different, so that it could be more competitive and viable and sustainable over time, because then what happens is that they can't also afford to be socially responsible. So while we are trying to help our businesses become economically sustainable and viable, they need to also afford to be socially responsible. And that means paying their workers living wage and providing benefits and overtime compensation and what have you, because when you're trying to grow a local living economy that thrives, it has to be an economy that works for everyone. And everyone needs to be able to prosper, be they the business owners or the workers.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And it can't be, it's not a zero-sum game. It can't be something where somebody wins and somebody loses. We've got to create a bigger pie for everyone to participate. Akil, you were something?
Oh, no, I was.
Oh, you're about to lean. Okay, I'll come to you. Sticks, what should we stop doing?
Stop doing is hating on each other. It's a lot of, like, just take your story. There was a lot of hate and a lot of roadblocks.
Yeah.
Oh, a black-owned bank that focuses on unbanked population. How stupid is that? Like, it's 500,000 unbanked people just in Los Angeles alone. Then there's barriers for undocumented citizens. I'm calling them citizens who, oh, you need a social security number in order to get a bank. Why? Do you got money? Come on, put the money in the bank and let's
get on with it.
Like, there's hate in the systems that are in place for us to even start up a business. And don't get me started on grants. Oh my God. Oh, you want this federal grant or this state grant? What's your name, your mama's name, your cousin's name, your uncle's name? How much money did you make this year? How much money you made last year? Matter of fact, you forgot to add a period at the end of this. Send it back and start over your application. Like, it's insane. So that's hate on a systemic level. Now, on a community level, oh my God. There's organizations like Sister who've been doing this for years, who in the projects with another organization who won't even donate a penny to see this sister's organization benefit because they got an organization. Nah, man, that's hate. That's community hate. And you probably hate yourself, which is why you can't help another person win. We have to stop creating barriers for other people, but more importantly, we have to stop creating barriers for ourselves. You know how many times individuals wake up every day and say, man, I can't do this. I can't build a website, so I can't start a website? You can go online right now and they got platforms that'll build this shit for you. All you got to do is upload some pictures and you got a website. Like, damn, I can't raise money. You got an uncle? Like, I was broke for a long time and went broke 3 more times when I got money. So I'm like, yo, if I want to bring something to life, I'm going to go to we ain't got no problem asking them to borrow $10 for some food or some gas money. Yo, can I get $10 to start a shoe line? To create a t-shirt line? We got to stop creating barriers for ourselves, unnecessary roadblocks, and we have to start to manifest the energy of success for ourselves before anybody will want success for us.
I think one of the physical manifestations of success is soul folks. You know, it's a space, it's a physical. So talk a little bit about, Akil, as you think about this question, how do we create more by doing less?
I think, like the brother said, we got to stop getting in our own way. We have to realize that we have the power of manifestation, that we can achieve everything that we see. The thing I like to tell a lot of people in my program is that, put your first foot forward, and the universe will meet you there. You know, there's a lot of people that are around you, I'm talking about the people in my program, that have done this before. Go to these people, make them become your mentors. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of resources that are available. And what I like to do, and a lot of people in this room know that I'm an open book. I tell you about all of my flaws, tell you how I made my mistakes, tell you where to go and get it. You know, if you have a project that you're working on, 9 times out of 10, I've created some type of relationships or destroyed some type of relationship where you could have went and got that bread. So I'll tell you how to get there. I mean, these ladies know, a lot of people in this audience know that I've done that. And I think that's the star play over at Soul Folks, you know, is that everything I ever told the people from my community that I was gonna do, I kept my word. And a lot of people who are leaders in our community, they're not doing that. They're coming and they're baiting and switching on you. And that's one thing that we don't do. You know what I'm saying? I stand by my word, and I make sure that the corporations and the organizations that I work with, I push a hard line to make sure that they do the same. And that's what we got to do. We got to use our platform to make sure that the organizations that we raise up is doing what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's real.
Yeah, absolutely. What you said reminds me of an interesting quote. The quote goes something, and when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. Right? And so you got to put it out there, and you got it. And once that happens, then magic happens in terms of the power of creativity. Okay, so I want to be cognizant of time. We've been good, the benefit of all these good people and your time, which we greatly appreciate. One rapid going to the end, each of you. What's the one idea? I'm going to pick up on the last speaker, but what's the last moderator? What's the one idea you would give to everybody in terms of what they can do to start or further their entrepreneurial journey? Like, so, because this entrepreneurship thing, we got to get it right. Because I really do believe that is the part of the salvation. So I'm going to start, ladies first. What should people do to either get going or to accelerate their entrepreneurial journey?
I would say take the first or the next step. Like for us, that looked like just researching. We spent a good 6 months just researching business, food, the entire industry, and that was our first step. And then we took the next step. So just take it step at a time.
I would say first thing or next thing is to alter your expectation. Like, stop expecting. And what I mean by that is to stop expecting it to look a certain way. Stop expecting things to show up a certain way. You take the action and then you see what comes from it. So when you have the expectation that you have to know this many people, or people have to agree with you, or people have to see your vision, you've already stopped yourself before you started. So for me, it's like, take that step and stop expecting that you know or can plan what the journey will look like.
Chancy.
Well, I foremost have seen the need for access to capital being paramount in low-income immigrant communities, and really trying to make the entry point to starting a business less expensive. So creating low-cost entry point for business startup and for entrepreneurship. And so an example of that is through business incubation and helping. So we're creating a Thai-town marketplace, which is a low-cost entry point to help people, entrepreneurs, low-income entrepreneurs, start their first businesses. And through that, they're going to get the nurturing and the incubation to grow and then roll out of there to start their own brick and mortar business. But it comes at a lower cost than starting out on your own, especially if you're low income. And so we really need to make access to capital a paramount priority for low income entrepreneurs.
So you're the access to capital guy, Austin. Tell me, what do you think? What do people need to do to either get started or to accelerate?
What I see is similar to what was said over here, is that people have this idea of what success looks like or where you need to be before you do X, Y, and Z. And particularly, people have an idea of how they need to present in order to attract capital. One thing that is like a mantra, I think it might be the first thing on our website, is your lived experience is your competitive advantage.
Say that again.
Your lived experience is your competitive advantage. It's the fact that what you have seen in your life, what you have been through, what you have overcome, that has built the perspective that enables you to say, this is a real opportunity for me to build a business in this category. That is the thing that's going to help you win. It's not you trying to look more like such and such or have this resume. It's the thing that got you to this place that you're at today that's going to provide the competitive advantage that's going to allow you to thrive over the long run.
Can I say something really quickly?
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, it was kind of put on my heart to say two things. One, do good with little and more will be added unto you. You know, you start where you are and then you meet the people, the resources you learn, you find, and it comes to you. And then the other thing was, that so often we think that starting a business, being an entrepreneur, like that we have to get it right, and we don't. A mentor of mine was like, you know, so often Black and brown people aren't allowed to fail forward. Our counterparts start business after business. So many of them don't do well. They get funding and funding and funding. And we think as soon as we get a shot, it has to look just right because everything is riding on it. And we don't. Every time you take a step, even if it doesn't look the way you intended, that's the space for you to learn something. So you don't have to get it right. You just have to take the action.
Yeah, for sure. Akil.
Don't be afraid to combine your forces. All of nothing is not as good as some of something. And a lot of people believe that, because it was their idea, it was their baby, they have to just keep it close to their chest instead of finding out what this man can do, this woman can do to kind of help you raise your business. I believe in delegation and so folks. So what I do is I like to find people who do this the best. You know what I'm saying? And I try to employ them or invite them in so we can kind of get to the point that we're trying to get to as fast as possible. And I think that's what it is, man. And learn to humble yourself. I think that's what it is.
100%. I like quotes. You remind me of what you just said reminds me of a quote. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it's all about going together so we can go far. I will give you the last word, Sticks, on the topic. What do you say?
I want to add to that quote. Brother Malcolm X, he said something very profound. He said, if you take the word illness and you remove the I and you add W-E, it spells wellness. I'm going to say that one more time because it might fly over your head. If you take the word illness, remove the I, and add W-E, which is we, it spells wellness. So what that means is if we can come together, we can create wellness for the community. Now, in conclusion, because there's always something else. In conclusion, I love what everyone said. First of all, it's an honor to be on the stage with some amazing, amazing individuals. They truly do a lot, not only for community, for themselves, they're family people. They have a family that they take care of, including, you already know. You know how I feel about you.
I appreciate you.
I just want to say this. First step is belief. Belief, the belief in that you can do whatever the hell that you want to do. After you believe, you have faith. Once you have faith in something, there's nothing that can knock you off of that rock. And after there's faith, you then walk in fruition, meaning it comes to life. Write this stuff down. Say it to yourself every day. I'm going to be this, or I want this. Because that is the formula, that is the science, that is the key to true success, is knowing that what you believe in, what you have faith in, that you've created, what you're walking in will come to life, because it's destined and it's the scientific law that everything you produce and everything that you want to produce will manifest.
Thanks.
I can't say much more than after that than thank you. I want to thank this very esteemed panelists, our previous panelists. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the sponsors. Appreciate all of you for spending your Wednesday evening with us. If you could just take a moment to recognize Marjorie Fields Harris, who on the MoCaFi team took this from idea to actualization. So it's a great example of ideas becoming true, and hopefully there was something here in today's conversation that inspired you or helped you or gave you a path or an idea that you didn't have before. And my one ask of all of you is, as was said by this panel so eloquently, put it out there, name it. There are resources available, whether it's the community, whether it's through ourselves, whether it's the city, whether it's through MasterCard, Wells Fargo, VantageScore. We're all here to be helpful and supportive. And if we can each help each other, we can run fast and far. And with that, have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.